Recognizing mobility visual impairment. What is mobility visual impairment? Mobility visual impairment is a new term. It's a condition of low vision, meaning this person responds to visual stimuli, but the severity of the impairment makes them unable to visually avoid collisions, and therefore they absolutely need a mobility tool for safe independence. These toddler girls were all seeking pediatric belt canes. They are visually impaired. Are they mobility visually impaired? Mobility visual impairment is defined as having visual input but cannot use vision for balance or obstacle avoidance. Most onlookers might watch these videos and say these three girls are walking independently, but are they walking age appropriately? Are they walking as much as their sighted peer? For sighted children with no disabilities, learning to walk well is understood to be on a timeline unique to each child. Walking milestone ages are often characterized as loose guidelines. There is great confidence that late walkers will still soon become great walkers. The important difference between toddlers and adult walking is young children are more visio-dependent in comparison with adults. This means that toddlers need vision to develop balance and for safety, to learn to avoid obstacles, for example. As any parent can attest, once walking independently, sighted toddlers' physical activity increases exponentially. Walking and exploring is essential to learning. Learners who are mobility visually impaired may walk, but they may do so with great need to hold on to things. They may collide with objects and miss steps. Toddlers who are unsure walkers do not tend to walk and explore the expected amount of time for their age. The purpose of this mobility visual impairment assessment is to help you identify whether a child with visual impairment is mobility visually impaired, which then means that the toddler will walk better, safer, and more frequently when equipped with a pediatric belt cane throughout the day. The curriculum provides this downloadable form to assess if a child with a visual impairment aged 5 or younger would benefit from wearing a belt cane. The form should be completed by someone who is familiar with the child's eye condition and in collaboration with someone who has observed the child when left on his own. The first section asks about the child's clinical diagnosis. Choosing any one of these items would indicate the child has a mobility visual impairment. The second section is observable independent walking milestone outcomes. A child who does not have a diagnosed motor impairment and is 3 or more months older than the walking milestone age is a cause for concern. It suggests that their mobility visual impairment may be triggering an independent walking delay. After 18 months, there should be little need to prompt a child to walk, and that's the third section, the expected amount of physical activity. As the child nears the second birthday, they should need few, if any, prompts to walk, and their physical activity, moving about and exploring, should be upwards of 6 to 8 hours a day. They should not be holding on to walls, furniture, or people, and when they are, that means they need haptic feedback for balance. This is something that the belt cane provides. The final category is for the child whose visual impairment causes him to be unable to avoid colliding with objects and people when walking and exploring. This is unsafe, and the belt cane frame is needed to improve safety outcomes. Here is an example of how to complete and interpret the assessment of mobility visual impairment. Bowie is 17 months. He has cortical visual impairment. To assess whether a child is mobility visually impaired or not, we can use the child's eye report, parent report, and observation. His eye report indicated a measured acuity of 2800 or worse. He also has restricted lower fields. Both conditions are indicative of a mobility visual impairment. His parent reports that he walks with assistance, but when left alone on his own, he continues to crawl. Bowie is 17 months. Walking with assistance is 12-month independent walking milestone. His independent walking physical activity is less than 3 to 5 hours per day, which is also a 12-month milestone. And finally, when he moves, he cannot avoid obvious obstacles. Bowie is mobility visually impaired, which means he needs a belt cane for independent balance and safe mobility. Bowie is mobility visually impaired because he is behind in his independent walking goals. He is unsafe when he moves about on his own, and he does not move about on his own at the amount that is expected for his age. He therefore needs a belt cane for independent balance and safe mobility. Safe Toddles. Our mission is to provide blind toddlers with a solution for walking independently with safety.
safetoddles.org/donate.
For more information, contact us. This curriculum was funded by a grant through the IES Department of Education.